Today, we're diving into something that tells you everything about where Europe is heading right now. We've got Berlin police battling bar owners in organized crime sweeps, Germany discovering its bureaucracy costs more than it can afford, green politicians pushing against peace plans, while the defense industry circles dying car factories like vultures, and a White House website that's naming and shaming media outlets. Oh, and I've saved the most fascinating development for the very end, so stick with me. I spent years inside one of those big-name media organizations, the kind everyone trusts without question. I watched editors shape stories to fit whatever narrative kept the advertisers happy and the bosses comfortable. I saw truth get bent until it snapped, so I walked away. Now I work for myself, I answer to nobody, and I tell you what's actually happening, not what someone wants you to believe is happening. And listen, I need to be straight with you about something. What I do here, this daily grind of tracking down sources, cross-checking facts, making sure I'm not feeding you garbage, it's exhausting work. In a world drowning in misinformation and clickbait, I'm here verifying everything before it reaches your screen. If you find value in that, if you appreciate having someone who will give it to you straight, hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and if you're able, consider sponsoring us. It genuinely means everything, because this kind of journalism doesn't pay for itself. And please watch all the way through, because what I'm holding for the end will completely reframe everything else we discussed today. So let's start in Berlin, in the Spandau district, where things got very physical very quickly. Police rolled into a hookah bar on Wilhelmstrasse for what should have been a routine inspection, except the 45-year-old owner wasn't having it. He went after 4 officers with enough aggression that the situation escalated fast. Now here's what you need to understand about this particular establishment. According to Berlin police, this hookah bar regularly hosts guests connected to organized criminal networks, and if you've been paying attention to Berlin lately, you know the city has been dealing with repeated violent confrontations, including incidents involving firearms. That's actually why Berlin police created a special unit back in early November called Virum, specifically designed to crack down on organized crime operations. So this raid in Spandau, it wasn't random, it was part of a coordinated effort to take back control of neighborhoods where criminal organizations have gotten comfortable. But here's where it gets messier. The bar owner wasn't alone. There were over 20 people inside that hookah bar, and some of them decided to join the resistance. Despite the chaos, police say they managed to check 24 individuals during the operation. 4 officers were injured dealing with this situation. And look, I'll be honest with you, this is probably just the beginning. These confrontations are likely to continue as Berlin authorities push harder against organized crime networks. The question nobody's asking out loud is this: how did it get this bad? How did criminal organizations embed themselves so deeply into Berlin's social fabric that a simple bar inspection turns into a brawl involving dozens of people? But we'll come back to that pattern, because it connects to something much bigger happening across Germany right now. Because while Berlin police are fighting street battles in hookah bars, Germany just realized something uncomfortable about itself. The country can no longer afford the luxury of its massive bureaucratic apparatus. We're talking about 1.7 million civil servants currently on the government payroll. That's not a small number. But here's the detail that's got everyone talking, the number that's genuinely shocking when you sit with it for a moment. Germany has 1.4 million retired civil servants collecting pensions, and those 1.4 million pensioners cost the German state exactly as much as 20 million regular pensioners. Let that sink in for a second. The pension obligations for former government workers are so generous, so expensive, that paying for 1.4 million of them equals paying for 20 million ordinary citizens. That's not sustainable, and German politicians are finally admitting it out loud. Labour Minister Hubertus Heil is now demanding that everyone, and he means everyone, should pay into the pension system. Civil servants, self-employed workers, no more special exemptions. But Boris Rhein, who runs the state of Hessen, he's going even further. He's the first major politician to publicly declare that the German state should stop hiring civil servants for ministry positions altogether. Just stop. Hire them as regular employees instead, without the lifetime guarantees and gold-plated pensions. Rhein's already put his money where his mouth is, or rather, he's kept money in the state's pocket. This year, he froze salary increases for Hessen's civil servants for 4 months, saving 180 million euros. He's quite proud of that number. Now, before you think this applies to everyone, it doesn't. Teachers, judges, police officers, they're exempt from this proposal. Ryan specifically wants to target ministry bureaucrats, the people shuffling papers in government buildings, the ones who could theoretically work as regular employees without special protected status. Whether this actually happens remains to be seen, but the message is clear. Germany has chosen a path of economic austerity. The economy must be economical, as they're now saying. The era of generous government spending is over, at least for civil servants. But here's what's interesting. While Germany is tightening its belt on bureaucracy, there's one sector that's absolutely thriving, and we'll get to that in just a moment because it reveals something crucial about where Europe's priorities actually lie. But first, let's talk about the Green Party, because they reminded everyone over the weekend exactly where they stand. At their party conference in Hanover, German Greens spent considerable time criticizing Donald Trump's plan to end the war in Ukraine. They're not fans. In fact, they're demanding the opposite of peace negotiations. The Greens want Germany to supply Taurus long-range missiles to Ukraine. They want to seize and use frozen Russian assets. They want massive escalation of sanctions. Think about that for a second. The Green Party, the political movement built on environmental protection, is actively opposing a peace plan, even though war is arguably the most environmentally destructive activity humans engage in. They know this. They're not ignorant about war's ecological impact, but they're against this particular peace plan anyway. Meanwhile, in Germany, it's the Left Party and the AfD who are currently advocating for peace. The political spectrum has gotten weird, hasn't it? When the party named after environmental protection is pushing for more weapons, while fringe parties advocate for ending hostilities, something fundamental has shifted. And speaking of shifts, let's talk about Rheinmetall, the weapons manufacturer that's become a household name in Germany over the past few years. Just recently, Rheinmetall announced interest in acquiring a Volkswagen factory in Osnabrück that's facing closure. Seemed like a perfect match, right? Defense company needs production space. Car company needs to offload a factory. Except now Rheinmetall is backing away. Here's the situation with Volkswagen, because it's worse than most people realize. Europe's largest automaker is planning to cut annual expenses by 15 billion euros. 15 billion. The reason they cite is the disastrous transition to electric vehicles. Volkswagen simply isn't competitive in the global EV market. Sales of electric vehicles are plummeting, and it's destroying their profit margins. So factories are on the chopping block. Thousands of jobs are disappearing, and the entire German automotive industry is having a reckoning. But Rheinmetall's CEO, Armin Papperger, just explained why his company isn't interested in the Volkswagen factory right now. Turns out Rheinmetall already has sufficient production capacity for its current orders. They don't need additional facilities unless they receive major new contracts. Papperger did note that some of Volkswagen's production spaces would be suitable for weapons manufacturing, but again, only if the orders justify it. Now here's where experts are connecting the dots, and this is important, so pay attention. Germany is transitioning from a consumer economy to a defense-driven economy. You can see it happening in real time. German automakers and their suppliers are cutting costs, laying off workers, closing factories, declaring bankruptcy, all because consumer demand, especially for electric vehicles, has collapsed. Meanwhile, defense companies are expanding, increasing capacity, hiring aggressively. And those defense companies aren't just building new facilities. They're actively recruiting skilled workers from the automotive industry. They're taking production spaces from car manufacturers. The transition is tangible. Experts are saying out loud what used to be whispered. Germany is restructuring its economic foundation around weapons production. People aren't losing their jobs entirely. They're just shifting from making cars to making missiles. Is that progress? Depends on your definition, I suppose. But let me tell you what's happening in Bremen right now, because it perfectly captures the anxiety running through German society. The beautiful, historic city of Bremen is spending 3.2 million euros on security for its Christmas markets this year. 3.2 million euros just to keep visitors safe during the holiday season. They've erected concrete blocks around the festival area in the city center. Heavy metal bollards line every approach. Special barriers that can be manually raised when trams approach, then closed again immediately. Every access point for cars and trucks is completely blocked. Not just the wide entrances, the narrow passages too. Everything. The official line is better safe than sorry. Bremen police have announced a constant presence from November 24th through December 23rd. This is the reality now. Christmas markets, once the epitome of peaceful European tradition, now require military-grade fortifications and millions in security spending. That's where we are. And it gets more intense. In the university town of Gießen in the state of Hessen, mass protests erupted over the weekend against the formation of a youth organization linked to the AfD. Police had to dismantle road barricades. They deployed batons, pepper spray, and water cannons. Over 150 police officers were injured to varying degrees during the violent clashes. This is modern Germany? Protests that require water cannons. Police casualties measured in the hundreds? Whatever consensus used to hold German society together, it's fracturing. Now let's cross the Atlantic because something genuinely bizarre is happening at the White House. The official White House website has launched a new page called Media Violators. I'm not making this up. It's a hall of shame for media outlets. The page lists English-language news organizations, along with links to their articles that supposedly distort the actions of the U.S. government and President Donald Trump. There are sections labeled Wall of Shame, Leaderboard, and Repeat Offenders. The message is unmistakable. Don't try to deceive us. The implication is that you can now identify which global media outlets are making false claims, running unacceptable campaigns against the American administration, against Donald Trump personally. And look, here's what I'll say about this. When it comes to information about Trump and his team, you absolutely need to verify everything carefully. The amount of false information, the sheer volume of misleading claims from all directions, it's staggering. I've noticed it, you've probably noticed it too. But creating an official government website to name and shame journalists and news organizations, that's a different level entirely. It raises questions about press freedom, about government intimidation tactics, about whether this is about accuracy or about controlling the narrative. I don't have the answer, but I know this much. When governments start keeping public lists of media enemies, history suggests we should pay very close attention to what happens next. And finally, let's talk about the peace negotiations, because this is what I saved for the end. As you know, a Ukrainian delegation met with U.S. officials in Miami recently to discuss Donald Trump's peace plan. Simultaneously, Trump's special envoy traveled to Russia for the same purpose. We're at a pivotal moment. Everything related to this topic, all the real details, we're expecting to hear them sometime this week, possibly Wednesday, possibly Thursday. This is the story everyone should be watching, because if these negotiations succeed, if Trump actually brokers some kind of agreement, it reshapes global geopolitics overnight. If they fail, if this peace initiative collapses, then Europe's trajectory toward a defense economy becomes locked in. Germany's transition from cars to weapons accelerates, and the Green politicians get exactly what they're demanding: continued conflict and escalated military spending. So let me bring this together for you. Berlin police are fighting organized crime in the streets, while Germany dismantles its expensive bureaucracy. The Green Party opposes peace, while defense companies circle struggling automakers. Christmas markets need millions in security funding, while protesters and police clash violently. And the White House is publicly shaming journalists while peace negotiations happen behind closed doors. These aren't separate stories. They're all pieces of the same picture. Europe is transforming, whether Europeans want it to or not. The question is whether this transformation leads somewhere stable or somewhere much darker. And that's exactly why I do this work, why I'm here every single day tracking these connections, giving you the context that mainstream outlets either miss or deliberately ignore. If this kind of analysis matters to you, show your support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're in a position to sponsor us, please consider it. Independent journalism survives only when viewers like you make it possible. I'm not backed by corporations. I'm not reading from anyone's script. I'm just here telling you what's really happening. And I'll be back tomorrow with more, because these stories never stop unfolding. Stay informed, stay skeptical, and I'll see you in the next one. Look, I need to take a moment here and talk to you directly because this matters. What I'm doing here, what we're building together, it's not easy work. Every single day I'm going through dozens of sources, cross-referencing claims, tracking down original documents, making absolutely sure that what I'm telling you is verified and true. In a world where fake news spreads faster than facts, where everyone's got an agenda and misinformation is everywhere you look, I'm spending hours, sometimes late into the night, making certain that you're getting the real story. Not some twisted version, not some narrative designed to manipulate you, but the actual truth as best as I can determine it. That's exhausting work, and honestly, it's expensive work. but I do it because I believe you deserve better than the garbage most outlets are feeding you. So if this matters to you, if you value having someone in your corner who's committed to getting it right, here's what I'm asking. Hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel so you never miss an episode. And if you're able, if you can swing it, please consider becoming a sponsor. Your support, it's not just appreciated, it's what makes this possible. It's what keeps independent journalism alive. Thank you for being here.